Today we're going to do the story of the Exodus, when Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. And that starts in Exodus chapter 11 and page 77 in your Spark Bible. And remember that we always said that the desert was a dangerous place. It's empty, hot during the day, very cold at night. Hardly anything grows there, so there's really no food. It's very hard to find water. And if you do find water, it usually belongs to someone, so you can't just take it. People don't go to the desert unless they have to. But when God sends people into the desert, it's usually because he wants to teach them something. The people of God were living in Egypt. They had gone there many years before, and they had been welcomed by the Pharaoh. But now there was a new Pharaoh, and he wasn't as kind as the one that had been many years before, and he was a little bit afraid of the Hebrews because there were so many of them. They worked as slaves in Egypt, building the pyramids and the palaces. And there was a man named Moses who started out as a slave when he was a baby, but had been raised in the palace. He knew the Pharaoh. And he said, you need to let these people go. Let them be free. If you're so afraid of them, just let them leave. Let them go back to where they came from so many years before, and you won't have to worry anymore. But the Pharaoh said no. Moses went to him and said, our God said you should let them go. But the Pharaoh said, no, they can't go. Strange things started to happen in Egypt. There were plagues and pestilence, bugs. People got weird diseases. Every time something happened, Moses went back to the Pharaoh and he said, look, just let the people go, and this stuff will stop happening. And every time the Pharaoh said no, the people can't go. Until finally, one night, God spoke to Moses and said, tell your people, the Hebrews, to get all of their stuff ready to go. They're going to roast some lamb and eat the whole thing. They're going to bake bread. But they're not going to have even time to let the bread rise. They're going to eat bread called matzo. It's flat like a cracker. You can still get matzah today. People still eat it to remember this. And when they're going to take the blood from the lamb, and they're going to mark their doors with it. And Moses was kind of wondering why, but he had learned by now to just trust God. And that night, a terrible thing happened. All of the firstborn children in Egypt died. In the morning, they went and they found that their eldest sons were dead. Even the Pharaoh's son had died. No one was spared except the Hebrews who had marked their door with the blood from the lamb, so that the angel of death knew to pass over their homes and not kill their children. So this time the Pharaoh said, okay, go, leave, go back. I can't do this anymore. So the people started to get ready to go. Moses was going to lead them. So they packed up their stuff. They took whatever they had with them, and they started out away from the Nile River, away from where they were slaves, and they started to cross the desert. Somewhere along the line, the Pharaoh changed his mind, and he decided that he was going to go and get the people back They could hear the army coming behind them, the chariots and the horses, and they got scared. And they kept going until they came up against water. And they didn't know how to get across it. And Moses said, "Don't worry. God will help us." And Moses reached out to God, and God parted the waters so the people could pass through. And they did pass through. They rushed because the army was coming behind them. And it must have been a great army because they could see the clouds of dust and sand and everything that was coming. It was scary for them to go through the water. They didn't understand. They didn't understand how this was happening, but they trusted Moses, and Moses trusted God. Because he said he was going to get them out of it. And they crossed through the water to the other side. And just as they were finishing their crossing, Moses was the last one who went through. And as Moses went through, the Pharaoh's army was right behind him. And as Moses went through, the water closed behind him. And it closed on the Pharaoh's army. So they were drowned. And they couldn't chase him anymore. And they knew that they were safe. They knew that God had spared them. And the people began to sing. And Moses' sister Miriam, and the women began to dance. They knew that God had saved them. He had kept his promise to bring them out of slavery in Egypt into the promised land.